Okay. Now we gotta start recording. Oh, I always forget. Okay. Yeah, so okay, totally my bad. I guess the beginning, if you want me to go over it again in this recording, we just went over how JavaScript is not the same as Java. JavaScript is used to make it interactive. And now we're beginning to learn how to declare variables. We usually use let, and you can modify it just like in any other language. And to print something, you can use console.log. And now I'm going over the different types of variables. So just like I said before, you can declare const, which you can't change, as you can see below. That is not okay. A let you can change. And why we don't want to use a var, which is the other language, or just the other variable type, is that it really goes back to scope. So usually in languages you have block scope. So like in Java, if I write a for int I is equal to 0, this variable I, it will just be inside the for loop, right? Like you can't use that in any other scopes inside the class, but JavaScript has function scope. So if you use var, then that variable value will be used throughout the entire function. So if you do a for loop with var, then if you do like for var I, it's equal to something, 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 and you increment it, but then your nested for loop, you have another var I, like your i's will be the same value, and that can cause a lot of errors. So usually you want to use let, because that has like the typical scope that we're used to in like Java or Python. Like, yeah. And it has primitive types just like the other languages. There's a number, string, boolean. Instead of none, it's null. And there's also undefined. And I'm assuming you guys are familiar with primitive types. If you guys are not, this is just like the basic, like what I guess let values can be, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's a good way to describe it, but like a let can be a number, a let can be a string, a let can be a boolean, and you can use that throughout your code, and you can set that equal to those values. And if you want to use like a template string, you will use this backtick. Like it's should be on your upper left keyboard, but by having a $sign and name, this lets you put in like certain templates. So you don't have to declare like yo meme man, if that makes sense. Like it makes it a lot more reusable. And yeah, so that will be something that is important, and we will be using this in our demo code. So the next thing is arrays. So in JavaScript, how you add to an array is not like with append or anything. You use .push, and this will create an array, and it'll have 4 and 6. And it's also 0 indexing. So what that means is that the first element has an index of 0. So if you want to call it, you will do array 0, and that will give you 4. And array 1 will be 6. Say that line like constant and yes, you could. But like yeah, you can. But I guess what we wanted to demonstrate is that like if you don't have something called name, like you could like implement that. Wait, basically if you don't have a variable named name, you can still implement what you want without that. Wait, okay, I'll just, I think it'll be more clear when I demo it, but yeah, that should still work. And do arrays in JavaScript work like stacks in Java? Stacks. I think like no, or like stacks. It should work like an array list in Java.
Yeah. Stacks are like a different data
Yeah.
work differently.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, I got you.
The first element is 0, the second element is 1, and then there is no second index or third element, so it's undefined. And yeah, that you can also index it with a variable. So the next thing will be objects. So an object is defined just like how I see it above. I can give this person a name, an age, and I can also add traits. So I'll describe that later, but right now, like if I do person.name, it'll give me buka buka, and if I do person.age, it'll give me 22. And yeah, like right here, you can modify the object as well by adding dot is alive. And so when you do person.isAlive, now you have true because you've added this trait to that object. And you can also access it like this. That is also fine. And yeah, so now we're going to conditionals. This is like if statements and stuff like that. So yes, this is very similar to Java. So if you, or Python or any of those languages, so if you do have experience with that, this should be like pretty intuitive, but you have if, and then if num is less than 100, and in this case it is, you'll print out num is small, else it will be num is big. And then what's different in JavaScript is that if you want to compare things, it's not equal equal, it's equal equal equal. So like you need 3 equal signs, and then if you want to do does not equal, then you do does not equal equal, if that makes sense. So yeah. And now we're going to loops. So just like in all the other languages, you can loop through an array or an iterative, and that will print out me, you, Alex, buka buka. And you can also just like do the for let I is equal to 0, I is less than the length of the people, and then plus plus that. You can also access it through index. And you can also use a while loop. So this will display numbers from 10 to 99. And yeah, so I guess we're done with that, and we'll go with functions.
Could you go back to the while loop slide?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
yeah, I'm good.
Okay, got it. So now we'll be doing functions. Oh yeah, sorry, I can't answer every question, or I guess I should go back through the questions. But just like from the last one that I've seen, should you use semicolons? You actually don't have to. Like it won't give you an error if you don't. So yeah, like sometimes I have a make a prettier extension in VS Code, and it automatically adds semicolons when I like save. But yeah, it's not necessary. And then could the name person be anything? Do you mean this, Kevin? Could the name person be anything? Yeah, it could be anything. It does not have to like const. Oh yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to functions. And so functions are, again, like, I guess what kind of differentiates JavaScript from Java in the sense that like functions do a lot of, or actually, yeah, let me just go into this. But so functions, you can call these functions. And so if I have a function, say hello, this is how I define it. I have function and the name of the function and then parentheses. And then if I have any inputs, I will put it inside the parentheses. And then I have the curly brackets, and then I will do whatever I need in there. And there should be a semicolon here, but there's not. And then, oh, like, yeah, just like I said before, if you have a name or an input, you put that inside the parentheses, and then you can use the backticks, and then you can put name in there. So then when I do say hello to Jeff, we'll print, hi there, Jeff. So yeah, it makes it, these backticks make it a lot more reusable. And yeah, you can, if you return something, you can set it equal to that my num, and then when I print out my num, it will be 7. Okay, now I'll go over callback functions. So a callback function is basically a function passed into another function, like here. So if I have function, so in function do twice, it takes in a function, and then it calls that function by doing fn and then parentheses semicolon. So by adding the parentheses, that is how I call that function. And then as a result, I have that function say hello, and then I can input it into do twice, and then that allows me to just call it twice. So then when I run this, it will say hello world and hello world. So yeah, functions are just values that you can pass. Yeah, so it'll say hello world, hello world. Oh, you do not have to use fn as a keyword. It can be anything, but function, I guess it just stands for function. So it was good for this exercise. And an anonymous function is something that doesn't have a name. Like you don't have to declare the name of a function. You can do twice, and then so do twice takes in a function, and then instead of actually making a function and calling it hello world, instead I can just pass in an anonymous function. It will just be this solve a function and then parentheses and then curly brackets and then print console.log hello world, and that is a definition of an anonymous function, so I don't have to associate a name with it. Oh, sorry, yes, I can pause for a bit on the screen. So yeah, just like I guess as you can see here, what's different about this is that before I had another function called def hello world. I think it was called not def hello world, or it's like function hello world, and then it did console.log hello world. But now, like, if I don't want to declare the name, then I will have an anonymous function and it still works.
For year and age, because in the loop you could increase the age by 1 each time, just like.
Wait. Sorry, was someone talking? Do you have a question? I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I will move on then. This is another way to define an anonymous function. So instead of having, like on the previous, I have function, parentheses, and then curly brackets, now I have parentheses and then the arrow. So you can make that with the equal sign and then the less, or like just the inequality sign that you see on the bottom. And then it will be console.log hello world, and this will do the exact same thing as before.
I have 2 questions. Like for the first
Yeah,
question,
go for it.
can functions be passed multiple values?
Yeah.
Okay, and for like are you able to do callback functions if like the function that is being called within a function like calls values for like let's say like you want to say hello to like a specific person, can there be a variable there?
Yeah, so then when you declare function, like you need to pass in something. Or like, no, sorry, can you see my
Okay.
arrow? Like when you, yeah, like when I actually like use it, then I need to pass in the name.
Okay, and then so then you could pass in like a variable name into do twice.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So maybe like that's not the best way, like best syntax, I guess, because it could get confusing, but yeah, it's definitely doable.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so now we'll be doing JavaScript for web development. So this is like the basic HTML template that we had in the previous classes. So I have this title and I can add an ID. And I know last class we had a lot of confusion between class and ID, but yeah, I would typically say that ID is used for like JavaScript. But yeah, so I'll add an ID to uniquely identify an element. And then with that, I can use JavaScript to, I guess, like declare an inner text. And I select it. So document refers to the HTML document that is in my window or that I'm looking at right now. And then query selector will select the HTML element, and then dot inner text will, as you can see, just wait. If I set it equal to high, like it will change the title to high. I can also add dot on click to title by adding a function. And so this will open a pop-up just because of the alert thing. Like that's just something that comes with JavaScript, but yes. And then the next one will be, so there's like two ways I can do on click. Like I can either do it in JavaScript and add an alert or add a dot on click to title, which is the constant that refers to this HTML, or I can inside HTML have a trait called on click and then refer it to the function show pop up. And then with JavaScript, I will have a function show pop up and that will do it. So these two are like synonymous. Dot on click in JavaScript or on click inside the HTML. Yeah. So yeah, that's like the basics, I guess. It actually went by a lot faster than I thought it would, but I guess now we're gonna be going into APIs, which is how we will be calling the dogs or the random dog images. But APIs are basically, or they stand for Application Programming Interface, and they allow our code to interact with some other web apps data. So like if I want music like from someone's playlist, like I can use the Spotify API and get like a playlist of data that is easy for the computer to read. So yeah, this way I can create data, get data, modify data, delete data, all with APIs. And like we will be getting data for this class. Oh yeah, so like before I just introduced the Spotify API, you can ask for information about a song. The weather API, you can ask for tomorrow's weather. The calendar API, you can ask for today's events. And yeah, there's a lot of APIs. You can also make your own, and yeah. And just like I said before, it makes it a lot easier for your computer to read. So like this text, it's just a bunch of data, and it's a lot easier to understand this for your computer than this with all the UI and stuff, right? So this breaks it down in album, artist, year, songs, and then you can use like a for loop or something to query through all the songs or whatever you want with that data. So yeah, today we will be using the dog API. If you guys want the link, that is the link that we will be using. And so just on this website, you can see like, if I fetch a random one, it will just give me a bunch of random dogs. And so I will be using this for my random button. Oh, that's a funny image. Okay, but yeah. And so it will return a JSON, as you can see here. And yeah, JSON is JavaScript object notation. Yeah, cute puppies. But yeah, so it's a JavaScript object notation, and then we will convert this JSON to, or we will be able to use the data inside this JSON to like display the images that we want. So now that we have this link, there is a JavaScript method called fetch, and it allows you to fetch from this. So it gets from this link a response, and then the response contains the data that you want. And so you use .then to specify what to do with that response. So it fetches the data first, and then after it's fetched it, then it logs the response with whatever is inside your .then function. And I will be writing this, so you don't need to, like, we'll be going over this a lot more in a few minutes. So yeah, this is just like to introduce you to the concept of fetch. And as I said before, it is a .json file, so, or it's a type of, it is a JSON. So we will be using .json to get the actual data. And yeah, how you can see this is just when we printed console.log got data from dog API and console.log response. This is the response that we get. And so we'll be able to get whatever like image URL or whatever is inside this data or inside this response. Yes. And yeah, this is typically how you get data with fetch. You do .then and then res. And then just like we learned before, this is a function. So it takes in res, and then you do res.json, and then that fetches from the API, extracts the JSON data, and then logs the results. Hopefully that makes some sense. Let me know if you guys have questions, but this is typically just like how we do it. It's like a standard notation. And yeah, this is what you get when you get the data. And res, or yeah. Yeah, .then just runs a function immediately after another one. Okay, so now let's use the dog API. Fun, fun, fun. Okay. So I will be making an index.js file. Oops. And .js is like, just specify that this is a JavaScript file. And yeah. So what I exactly want to do with this function, I guess, or with this JavaScript is I want to create functions that give the buttons abilities, right? Because right now in my dog generator, like I can't do anything with these buttons, but what I want to do is like when I press find random dog, I want a random dog to appear here. And when I have a specific dog like poodle, like I want this button to get me an image of a poodle. So that is what I will be doing with JavaScript. So how I do that is by adding the onClick attribute that I discussed before, if you guys remember. So inside my button, what I will do is onClick is equal to get specific image, and then onClick is equal to get random image. So these are the functions that I will, so there's nothing yet because I haven't implemented anything, but that's the name of the functions that I want to call in my JavaScript file. And I have to somehow connect it, right? So how you usually connect it is under all this HTML, you have a thing called script, and my source will be index.js. And this will connect my HTML file to the index.js file. to retrieve those specific methods, if that makes sense. And that's just like similar to what we did here, but this time it was href, this time, and this is source. It's, yeah. Okay, perfect. So I guess I'm just gonna start with get random image because that seems like the most or the easier one. So get random image. I don't need to pass anything. I just want to go to this link right here. Not with the fetch. But yeah, so this link is what allows this website to get a random image, and it has already created this API. So all I want to do is call this or fetch the data from this link. So I will do fetch and then whatever I have from that link, and then dot then. And just this is like classic notation that I said in my slides. I'm gonna get the data, and then I'm going to log my data. But this time when I log it, I'm gonna query it. So I want to put this image inside the HTML component with the dog image, right? Like I had this ID of, sorry, where was it? Dog image, right? So I want to put it there. So what I'm gonna do with this result is, just like I said in my slide, I'm gonna do document.query selector, and then I'm gonna call dog image, and then I'm gonna have it as, oh wait. Okay, wait, I'm gonna implement that later, but I want it to be, okay, wait, just ignore it for a second. Yeah, so I'm gonna document.query selector dog image, and then I'm gonna use the backtick, and then URL res dot message. Did I do that right? Give me a second. I feel like I did not do that right. Dot then. Okay, wait, because, oh my god. Oh, it's because I have that. Whoops. Okay. And then that should, no errors, right? Okay. So yeah, that should basically call, wait, why is this not, wait, let me see if this works. Sorry. Oh, I think it's because I need, oh my god, dot style. Is that it? Why is it not? Okay, maybe I'm just so sorry. Oh, maybe I put the backtick wrong. Okay, let me try to rewrite that. Then URL. Oh, it's because I didn't do the curly braces. Okay, got it. So sorry, my bad. So yeah, this should now call the message inside res, and then put it inside the dog image as background image. So if I refresh. Oh, yay, okay. So does that make sense, everyone? Sorry, that was a little not organized. So basically, let me just refresh. So what I did was I created get random image. So I linked my HTML file to index.js, and then when I click random, I want it to refer to get random image. And then what I do is I get the data from the link /random, which is what I found like on the site. And then I get the data through res.json, and then I set the message that is inside that to this ID. And .style.background image just sets the background image property to the URL, which is like the location of the image file, if that makes sense. Like this is just the typical way of getting, so I'll do document dot get the HTML, get the HTML tag, and then do .style.background image, and then that will refer to the URL. Sorry, let me open the chat. And what? So yeah, I will be putting it here in the Q&A doc. So that is currently what I have for get random image. And I also need to update what I have for dog.html or index.html. No, I didn't mess with the CSS at all. Can you with Java? Sorry, I don't know what that means. Can I do it with Java? Is that what you mean? Okay, I guess if you guys are all good, I will move on to writing get specific image. All right, I will begin writing specific image then. So that is my function get specific image, and then so the thing is now I want to like take what I inputted here and then get it, right? So I ID'd it as dog name. So let me just take that, and what I will do is I will declare a variable const name, and then I will get it by selecting it based on the ID. Dot value. No. Okay. So that will get the name that, sorry, I need to hashtag. Do hashtag because that is the ID. So yeah, I will get dog name, and then I will get the value of that. So then what I want to do with that is now I'm going to fetch again. But this time I'm going to fetch with this backtick instead, because what I want to do is put the name inside the breed that I'm looking for. So I actually found the URL where they do have this specific name, and it's basically the same thing, but instead use /breed $name instead, /images/random. So it will give you a random image with that breed. That makes sense. And just like the same thing as last time, I'm gonna get my result, get the data from the JSON or the data from it, and then what I want to do is just like before, set the image. I'm just gonna copy this. Oh, I did mess up again. I'm gonna do document dot query selector dog image style dot background and then res dot message. Does that make sense? In this case though, like, I think you should also think of an edge case where like, what if like you can't, like the name that you enter doesn't exist. I guess you also want to say like if the status is an error. So res returns success and error, but if it's an error, like we don't want to, like there is no image to set it equal to. So instead I'll have an if statement and I'll say if res.status is, sorry, too many equals, is equal to error, then I want to say, woof woof, we couldn't find the dog. Please try again. Otherwise, yes, I will do that.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Instead of like saying like there's no such image, can we like just replace it like if like the dog breed doesn't come up, then we just drop an image of like some kind of meme or something?
Yeah, for sure. You can do whatever you want. I just chose to do this, but yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
I would want to visit that website. But yeah, so yeah, that should work now. Let us test it out. Poodle. Oh, sorry, I totally spelled that wrong. Yay. So yeah, now your dog generator is interactive. Yay. I guess that's the end to my lecture of JavaScript. If you have any questions, please let me know. I might have gone a bit fast. I am pasting this. Oh shoot. I am pasting this in the Q&A doc right now. And I hope you guys learned something from this. Yeah. Yeah, you'll be able to watch over later. I've recorded this and I actually don't know where the recordings will be. I will let you know tomorrow. Or I do know where the recording will be, but I don't know how I'll get it to you. So yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess if you guys have never made a website before, you guys have made your first website and it's a dog generator. So that's fun. Yes, as Claire said. Yay. And so the next lecture, yeah, so the next lecture will be a, so yeah, so Vivian, the script at the end connects the JavaScript file to your HTML file. Yes, the backticks are necessary if you're using that. Yeah, so the next lecture will be a design lecture. Justin will be coming back for that. How can we replace the alert with an image? Oh yeah, so instead you could like just like what someone asked before, you could just do document, like you can just copy this and then instead of putting like res.message, you can just put like a random image, if that makes sense. Yeah, and the design lecture is just like going over the basics of like how to make things, I guess, pretty. Like he'll go through a lot of examples of current trends in like popular apps right now, like focus, purpose, use of color, use of font, mobile friendly, organization, like good UI, why should users do these actions, what are actions users are allowed to take, just like things that you should keep in mind when designing an app or mobile app. And yeah, I think it's just like a good closing because now you know the basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, but you also should know like what font, like what some fonts will, I guess, portray and like what other things are better, just like from a design perspective.